Hello, everyone. Welcome to our September interviews. I'm Deanna, and today we have Lucila with us from Argentina.
Hi everyone. I'm Lucila. I live in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I have always lived here. I studied environmental management. Then I did another course in climate change, kind of my thing. I'm interested in that. So, and then I also did many courses and so on. I worked for many years as an energy efficiency assessor in Buenos Aires Environmental Protection Agency, and I was also part of a lot of different organizations. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Last year, I did a training, international training in sustainability leadership. I love that. I also have a project related to that. I also did training on climate change that also was international. So pretty much if you check my LinkedIn or wherever you see me, you will see a long list of things that I studied. I'm kind of a environmental nerd in that way. But I'm happy with that. It actually makes me really happy. So I go with it.
Yeah, I struggle with describing you because, like you said, there are specific words in Spanish that you can use if you're more on the science side or if you're more, I don't know what the difference is. Could you explain that again? Do you remember talking about the difference
Yes.
between ambientalista?
Yes, because I mentioned it many times. So in English, you probably have environmentalist as a whole, but in Spanish, you have two different words. You say that people that are ambientólogo or ambientóloga, depending on male or female, are people that actually studied environmental sciences, environmental management, environmental engineer, or whatever. So they kind of have a career on that. They did a course of studies, a bachelor's, a postgraduate, or whatever. So those people are ambientólogos or ambientólogas. So I call myself ambientóloga. And an ambientalista is the typical you have seen in the streets and so on, like save the polar bear, the ice is melting. That is that is a ambientalista. So you can be both. Kind of many ambientólogas are both because we kind of use our knowledge to activate in some way. But maybe people that are ambientalistas have not studied as a whole. Probably they did some studies, like they know what they're talking about, but they don't have the deep knowledge in some cases, no? And so we want to make that difference. I'm sad that I don't find it in English, but I find it in Spanish. So that's why I call myself environmental professional in English, because it's just a different thing for me.
It's true, but you're bringing up a good point that you can be, you don't have to necessarily be both. Even with an environmental engineer, maybe he's not an environmentalist, right? At the end of the day, maybe he's doing the things that are more human-centric rather than environmental-centric. No, just interesting word. I just remember that from last Wednesday, but yeah. Okay, so you told me about yourself, but I do want to know about that long list. I went through it on LinkedIn, and seriously, you are super involved and you have a lot of experience. I mean, the fact that you're training people on reducing energy consumption, you've worked on some kinds of policies, no?
Yes, when I was a part of Environmental Protection Agency, my contract ended in December last year, but I worked there for almost 4 years, and we did many things related to energy efficiency because I was working on that. Like we did the changing on lighting, both for neighbors on the city and both for some organizations and governmental buildings. But we also did a lot of things related to education, that actually kind of started when the pandemic hit, because we had many projects that were related to being on the streets, and suddenly we weren't able to be on the streets. So we started working a lot of on things relating more to education. I was able to develop my own project because at some point we had our boss that say, okay, we can't do the project that we had. Each of you can think of a project and we then decide if it's viable to do it or not. So my project was called Energía para Peques. It should be something like energy for kids. And it was, yeah. So it was related to teaching kids, like in the primary level, mainly from between 7 and 11 years old, something like that, because we also work with a program in Ministry of the Education that is called the Green Schools. So like we send the information to them and they say, okay, this is the age that you would be targeting according to the topics and so on. So it was related to what is the energy, what is the link between energy and climate change, what can I do at my house to take care of energy and use it rationally, why it's important to take care of the water, what are renewable energies, what renewable energies we have in Argentina, which renewable energy we have in the city of Buenos Aires. So it was like 13 webinars, like approximately 10 minutes long. And the idea was that we'd send those to the teachers that were in this program of Green Schools. And then they were able to use that webinars in those classes and then talk with the kids about those topics. What was actually amazing about that is that after finishing this program, I like sent an email to the teachers. Okay, thank you for being part of this program. I hope you had a great experience, blah, blah. I'm inviting you to visit CIFA. CIFA is the Center for Environmental Education and Formation, something like that would be the translation.
But that's strictly in Argentina?
It's part of the government, the city of government of Buenos Aires.
Okay.
So
Buenos
I
Aires.
was in Environmental
Okay.
Protection Agency that had like 2 buildings. One of the buildings was like the building with we're working, and the other building is more related to education because it has like renewable energy, it has an orchard, it has native plants. So it's kind of the schools can visit or universities can visit and see like in a space, okay, you can plant these things, you can do compost, like to demonstrate the things like in a small level.
But that was
So I
mostly for
invited
older kids or university students. So
yeah,
you actually
like
come and visit. What you
yeah,
guys
they
did,
can come and visit.
what you guys did with the 13 webinars was mostly for younger kids, right?
Yeah, I focus like in kids, but then I like wrote to the schools because actually there is a department of education that works with the schools and with the universities and like the whole level. So I invited the kids. Okay, you were part of this training. You watched the webinars. You did some activity with your teacher and so on. You can visit if you want. We can visit CIFA, and then you can tell me what you learned, and you can see renewable energies like we have there. So only one school replied saying yes, but it was awesome. But because they went and the kids were so happy, like talking to me. I said, "Oh, because I saw this, I talked with my mom and we did this and that. Oh, this is the thing that you show in your video." So it was great. It was a great closing of the year because at that time, like it was the end of 2021, and it was like closing.
Exact. Well, there's one school that says yes because that was the time when everyone was terrified to go anywhere. No, but how many schools ended up doing the program, participating?
Something like 20 schools or something like that. It was great.
Nice.
It was
Wow.
more like 20 courses because sometimes it was like a different course or sometimes like many courses. It depending on actually which person signed up. In some cases, it was like the secretary that signed up like 3 different courses and they talked to the teachers. In other cases, it was a teacher that knew another teacher. Also, it depended. But yeah, we had like a great reach working with the schools. I also try to do it as like something that the government say, okay, we can post in social media and so on. But then I also have like 10 people. It was like a really small reach. So working with the schools was like better in that case. But I
But
really like that.
but what was it that was only a reach of 10 people?
Because also apart from working with the schools, like I had the videos and I say, okay, probably like the the group, the energy efficiency, we can share with our family, with our friends, or like try to reach in social media, trying not only to reach like the people that were in green schools, but also trying to reach other people. Like, for example, I have my cousins that were like in that age level, but like I shared to them, okay, if you want, you can sign up here. This is what I did. But
That's perfect. Seriously, sometimes it catches at the right time, it just depends. Sometimes it's too early for its time, but once you plant that seed in one place and you see how it can grow, it's seriously, I love what you do. That's awesome. And
thank you.
so you have that was with the Environmental Protection Agency, but I saw a
Yes.
billion other things related to not that at all. You went to the Sustainable Hurricane Island in the US. And
Yes.
was this the Youth for Dialogue Development with the UPG? That was not related to
Yes.
the EPA.
So this my project, that is Youth for Dialogue Development, is actually my project for UPG training. That was actually kind of my ticket to go to Hurricane Island, because Hurricane Island and United People Global have an alliance. Like they work together in this program, in this sustainability leadership program. So each year, UPG and Hurricane Island select approximately 60 people to travel to the island in two or three different cohorts. And the idea is that we were developing our project in our own communities. We are also doing mini trainings. I will explain later what that is. But when they select you to travel to the island, then you can meet other leaders in person. You can see how the sustainability is working on that island. You can see like the different systems, the water system, the energy systems, the orcha. We also went lobstering one day, and we learned like all the relationship between the lobster and the community, and these permissions that they had that have some limits to preserve actually the sustainability of that community. So we learned a lot, and we met each other, because actually being an online program means that, yeah, I can meet with my friends, but online by Zoom. So I got to meet some of them in person. I say some because it depends on when you are selected, if you have a visa, because people from other countries sometimes they don't have a visa. I had my visa, but it had expired last year, so I couldn't travel last year. I now reapplied to travel this year. That unfortunately I got my visa in January, so I could travel. But I have some friends that really couldn't get the visa, so they couldn't travel with me. But it was awesome anyway, because I got to meet people from other cohorts that I didn't really know, because we have this course every year. I did it in 2022, but I have friends that did it in 2021, and it started starting like in 2019. So I got to meet people from many different years. It was great in that sense too.
And this is where you were part of a team, no? And you guys were the puzzle solvers.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, tell me about so it's a fairly new program. It just started in 2019, no?
Yes.
Awesome. And people come every year because they just learn the program changes every year, or you can come back as an alumni, or how does that work?
Yes. There is a program that is, in my case, it was 9 weeks long. I think this year it was 10 weeks long, and it will continue being 10 weeks, probably. Actually, the applications for next year are open, so then I send the link to you if you can put it in the
I think
YouTube,
I
like in
actually looked at it yesterday. I think I did.
So the applications for next year are open, and the idea is that you apply. If you are selected, you can be trained for free, but there are two conditions on that. First condition is that actually when you are doing the program, you have to start working in your own project, and then you have to implement it along like the next year before after you finish the training. And the other condition that they give you is that you have to start promoting what UPG does and do what they call a mini training. The mini training actually is a presentation that we give talking about, okay, what is UPG, what are the sustainability development goals, what is my project I'm leading, and invited people to join the community and to apply for the program if they are interested. So it's just like, okay, you apply, you can be selected. It's great if you're selected. In my years, there were like 6,000 people that apply, about 1,000 that got selected, and 564 that actually got certified, me included.
Nice.
Each year, each year more people are applying. I think this year there were like more than 7,500 and so on, because like people learn about it and want to apply.
It's motivating for you to know that you have to, grind your gears behind your own, whatever the idea is that you put out. And could you tell me what it is that you had to put together?
Like my project, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So the idea is that we learn about sustainability development goals, and we learn about UPG pillars and many other things. We had classes on different topics. And then we had like to choose one SDG and say, okay, I want to do a project related to whatever. And you choose a goal. So as you probably have seen in my curriculum, LinkedIn, and so on, I have been working for many years in COCOS, that is
Yes.
Consensus Building for Sustainability. COCOS does trainings in collaborative negotiation, facilitation, and consensus building, but for adults. And when I first did this training with COCOS, I was like 20 years old or something like that. And I was always thinking, okay, we should be able to teach younger people on that. And at that time, I was like the youngest in COCOS. I think I'm still one of the youngest. What happened is when I proposed that, it was not really a good idea because it was difficult to reach schools and there were like many different barriers. So we actually started working with some universities or doing the trainings like for ourselves. But then when I had the opportunity of applying to this program, to the Sustainability Leadership Program, I talked to COCOS coordinator and I said to him, okay, I have this. If COCOS supports my application, I have more possibilities of getting selected, because actually if you have an organization that kind of supports you and say, okay, I will help with the training, I will help with the project and so on, then it's like an extra point. So I talked to him and said, okay, I have this. It would be good if COCOS could support me because I really want to do this. And in the application, they also ask you if you have a project, because the idea is that if you have a project, you can like develop that project when you're doing the training.
Perfect.
And then I said to him, okay. And also, I wanted to ask if I could do my project as a younger version of this training of COCOS. And he said, yes, you can do it as long as you are the one doing it. So I kind of did it. I presented it as my project. Then I was able to do this training, this project of mine. I did it in March, April. I did it like with help with some people from COCOS. And then I started like improving it. Then I went to the island. In the island, I got to talk with another 30 leaders about our projects and get feedback and so on. So now I'm improving it again. And it won't be so similar to the content that COCOS has, even if probably some things on the content will be similar. I want to make it like more my my project, because it's true that many of the things that I learned are related to COCOS, but I also think that I have like a huge background in sustainability, that I want to use it. Because what happened to me was when I was talking to people and saying, okay, why I did my project, I was always thinking, okay, I think these abilities will be useful for young people, because young people are many times involved in sustainability, in climate change. We know that the action is urgent, and we know that we need collaboration. So in my mind, it was always like that. Like I want to do it because I know we can make a difference, but I actually never put it in the project in that way. So then I started thinking and talking with some colleagues and say, okay, but if my idea is that, like I have to put it together and say, okay, my project will be what I learned in Cocos plus what I was in sustainability plus trying to reach young. So I'm doing like all this improving and working on it. So I don't know when it will be like the next edition, but I'm really glad that I like could learn and go to the island and learn from the leaders and get feedback from people here, from Cocos, from friends, for colleagues.
I think that is super inspiring and super relevant to me personally, because I think if you do have a project that you want to put in place, whatever you start with is, I mean, it's really satisfying. You've started, and then you see, once you've done one round or two rounds, what you have to work with, what needs improving, and how you can make it more your own and bring that expertise that you have into, like you're saying, the Cocos, the training that's already there, but improving it, don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I do want to ask based on your experience with this, because you are creating an entire project of your own, do you have any advice that you could give people that are trying to do maybe sustainability education, maybe some kind of youth involvement, just some people who want to get more involved? What kind of advice would you give them when implementing something like this?
Probably saying this thing of doing things with others. Yes, because it took a long time to say, okay, I want to do my project, but actually I have been collaborating with NGOs and projects from friends and so on for many, many years. Even when I was studying, I had a friend that started an organization and was related to promoting different events that were related to sustainability that normally people didn't see because like they didn't see it in social media or they didn't know the organization and so on. So I started collaborating with her and say, okay, I find this, and then I started participating in some events. And then I was also part of the conference of young that was done that year in Argentina, in Córdoba, this another province in Argentina. So I did a lot of things by being with others. It's not that you have to do your own big thing. Probably you can, and it's awesome. But if you don't, or you don't feel ready, or you feel that you need others, or whatever, just like start by doing what you think you can do, and by being related with others. Because even now that, okay, I have my own project, I just finished a training related to environmental leadership that I was a student there. And I got to meet many other people that came from different disciplines. Some of them were related to environment. Some of them were just like, okay, I know environment is important. I don't know what to do. I came here. So it's always being with others and trying to make your difference, because no one will make the same difference as other person.
I love that so much. That is really beautiful. And really, it does matter where we fit in with other people for our projects to matter. So even if you do something completely off on your own, how you interact with other people in the community, whatever community that is, really does matter. And um I'm kind of tying in Bob Proctor because I've been watching him lately. He just points out that you have to be wanting to help really genuinely, because that's how whatever it is you're doing thrives. You have to be really willing to learn more, not only just to help, but also willing to learn more. And I think that, yeah, networking teaches us so much about what people need, right?
Yes, a lot. And also, it helps us when dealing with climate anxiety and all those things that we know that are real. Because then you are facing that with other people that know how you're feeling and also want to do something and say, okay, it's not just me, because it happens a lot. It happens to me, it happens to a lot of people that say, okay, what difference am I making, or what is this thing that I'm doing making in the world if they are like many big problems and I can't do all. Yeah, you probably can't do all. That's real. We can't do all. But and what I just told a friend yesterday when we were talking something related to that is probably we can't change the world, but we can change the piece of world we have impact in.
So true. Oh my gosh. But that's changing the world. And that's the beauty of just getting involved in whatever way, like you're saying, whatever way that you know you can do your part. That is you fulfilling your role in this. And but granted, you have your hand in so many places. I do also want to talk about the global peace chain, because that's not related necessarily to environment, is it? Or is it?
No,
Wow. So yeah, maybe switch
no,
gears. We might have to circle back around, but
no, but it's kind of related to that in some way, because actually the ex coordinator, the ex country director of Global Peace Chain was a friend that I met in an event related to climate change in 2018. Like we met there, then we stay in contact. She lives in another province, so we just like didn't see each other. It was just being in social media and sharing what the other was saying and commenting the post, and that was kind of our bond. Um, but then when she got to be the director of the country director in Argentina of Global Peace Chain, she started sending to friends, okay, I'm the country director of this organization. If you want to join, this is an organization that promotes peace around the world and deals with tolerance and many things. It actually based like in the Arabic countries. I think it was like found in Pakistan or something like that. It's just like countries that are generally in war. So it started like that, but then it grew in many different countries. My friend is not longer part of Global Peace Chain. Then another guy stepped up as the country director. I ended up being the assistant country director. But then we decided, like we were talking with the team, the Argentina team, and we decided that actually many of the things that we were doing were related to peace or were related to environment or to things that actually could be related to this promoting peace and tolerance and so on. So we say, okay, probably what Global Peace Chain won't have a place in the say, okay, it's a big organization here in Argentina, but it can support all the things that we are doing, because each of us have a lot of things that we do. We're from different disciplines, different studies. Like, so perhaps adding one thing to that, it was probably difficult how to fit it in the schedule and what to do with all the things. So we say, okay, let's include this concept of peace and tolerance and promoting sustainability in the things that we are already doing. And I think that works pretty well, because we can say that we are peace ambassadors because we actually are peace ambassadors. We can still talk about global peace chain, but we don't have to do a big thing just because it would look great. See you.
see you in a sec. I want to come back to what you said about this quote that, can you tell me again that you can't change the world, which I will disagree with again, but tell me again what you said about the impact that we can make in our locality.
Okay, yes, I say it a lot in Spanish.
You can tell us in Spanish too. Let's have a listen.
Ok, que puede que no puedas cambiar el mundo, pero sí puedes cambiar el pedacito del mundo que te toca. It should be
Exactly.
something like that.
You can,
I change it every time, but like I don't have like the exact words, but the idea is in a general way is that like, because what happens sometimes is that we or people in general think that if you are not doing something that has a great impact, then it doesn't matter. I think that actually makes like kind of an excuse, because you say, okay, I can't do big things, then I won't do anything. And yeah, it's probably okay. Like, yeah, we can't do big things. Um, but for example, take education. I love talking about environmental education. And yes, I perhaps yeah, I just talk with 10 families, for example, going back to Energía para Peques. But those 10 families have probably, I don't know, one kid, two kids that actually are the ones that can make an impact now and in the future.
And they
And
talk to other people. I mean, truly, that's why I want to contest what you say, because your influence not only with education but also using social media, like you said, with the internet. I mean, you guys are sending out the same program to multiple schools that can watch it all at the same time without you needing to be there in front of them physically, but that they can still interact with you, right? I mean, you said at least one school came and actually visited with you, but what was your interaction with them at the time? Like, do you feel like the kids were really catching? Were you able to see what kind of results you were getting in the classroom, or mostly just the teacher was keeping you informed about the
no,
progress?
I asked the teachers to send. I actually wasn't so successful with that. But yeah, I got like two or three teachers that when I asked, they like kind of send a video, or the actually the same school that then came to CIFA, they made a video in their houses. And for example, there was a kid like um, I have the words in Spanish and not in English, but they were turning off the lights, or they were closing a door, or like doing different actions related to energy. Okay, for example, you have your air conditioning, and then you close the door so the air doesn't like flow away,
To
or
be
you like turn
conscious,
off
right?
light and like doing mini actions. And I don't know, perhaps like 10 kids were part of the video or something like that. And they did it before coming to SIFA. So then I actually got to meet the kids that made it. And it was great. And then there was another school that also sent I don't know, but they made like different posters and they also sent it. So we had some kind of feedback. Also, I had like other friends that were working with teenagers, because there was another program related to environmental education with the technical, the environmental, the social, and the economic aspects, and they could like choose which one they wanted to do. I was part of the environmental. It was not like my project, but I was like kind of invited as part of the energy efficiency team to be working on the environmental level. And we also like got some work from the kids and this feedback, and they measure their carbon footprint. So there were a lot of things that we did at that time, and I really enjoyed that. And getting back to education, but outside of this Environmental Protection Agency, I had the experience in March of the year of teaching young Afghan women about climate change. And if you ask me a few months ago, I like really didn't thought I would be doing that. It's just like something that came because I knew a person that was a part of an organization that was co-organizing the training, and they started like texting some women that they know, because there's also a thing related to gender. It could only be women because of like security of the girls. We also had to like kind of sign an agreement and say, okay, we won't actually put these things in social media. We want to protect the identity of the girls, because it's important to tell that those girls are not able to have education because of
Where were they?
Taliban and so on. No, in Afghanistan.
Wow. Sorry, I missed that part completely. That was online too.
Yes, it was online. It was a 3 months long program. I was teaching about climate action, but there were other girls talking about menstrual health, about mental health, about literature, about circular economy. I think there were like 10 different topics, something like that. And we were young women from different countries that this organization, Global Youth Impact Nexus, they contact us because, well, it's important to say that that organization was actually like co-founded by 5 girls that are sustainability leaders and other people. So they started contact some people that they knew from UPG community and say, okay, we have this project. We want to propose that you be a teacher in this topic. If you like accept it or not. I was really doubtful about accepting or not because I was like, okay, but what can I do? I mean, like, yeah, I can talk about climate and so on, but I'm not a big expert. We were saying before, like trying to do big things. I'm not a big expert on this team, so I don't know. Um, then I remember that the girl that called me said that, okay, you may not be a big expert, but you know more than us.
You only have to know 10% more than someone to teach them, no? And really, it's better because you're exploring the topic together. And partly the reason why I like teaching kids is that they do teach you what you're not seeing and asking questions that sometimes you don't have the answers to and you have to look into. And yeah, it's a learning experience for everybody now, but super cool program. Wow.
Yeah.
And is that ongoing or that was 3 months?
No, it was from February to May. I had like my 2 classes in March. The idea is that like the girls had classes every week, and each teacher had between 2 or 3 classes depending on the topic. So I like got to give those 2 classes of climate action and to talk with the girls and share. It was 1 hour long because of internet and because of like this trying to protect them and so on. It was like, okay, 1 hour and it has to be 1 hour.
Mm.
Then the classes were recorded, but we didn't have access to the recordings again to protect the girls. So it was like the whole dynamic of you are doing this because you want to do it, and you have this compromise of saying, okay, I'm doing it, but for example, I shared about it in social media, like I shared in my LinkedIn, but I put like a black square. If you see like the articles that I make, I have like my picture, a picture of the presentation, because like I wanted to share what I did. And actually the organization promoted that, okay, you can share because it's important for people to know that we did this project because the girls don't have access to education, and we want like to highlight that this, but we also want to protect the girls that are risking themselves by being on the classes.
True.
So
But
we like sign an agreement and say, okay, we are doing this, we are available, and actually I started talking about climate action, and then in the first class I only have a few girls, and we were saying, okay, what's happening? Why are the girls not connecting? And then a friend of mine that is part of the coordinating team of Beijing, she found on the internet that there had been an explosion in Afghanistan. So it was like, okay, girls, you that are here, do you know if your classmates are okay? Do you have any way to reach them? And that was the way that my first class started.
that's
So it's just
incredible.
like,
Not really. I mean, you mentioned that they're taking classes on other things as well, and it was part of the discussion that we had. I mean, clearly not relating this to human experiences, but well, I'm making the business point that they said it's if your choices are survival or sustainability, you're obviously not thinking about saving the planet. Then on the other hand, this this is relevant to people and people do want to know about it, and connecting with those females in another part of the world again is bringing us back to, you really are changing so much more than just where you are. And the influence with other females is awesome. Really, just wow. You do a lot. You stay busy. But I asked if it was an ongoing thing, because if other people could get involved with it, because I know that females can still not go to school. So why would the program not be ongoing?
Yeah, because it was like a 3 months a 3 months program that it was between an organization in Afghanistan and a Global Youth Impact Nexus.
Oh, okay.
I know that probably they will do it again, but like we just haven't been contact,
And
we
they
don't know
connected you
how
with
it is.
different, like, how did they connect you with it was an Afghani organization that was working with you
Claro,
guys?
it was this Afghan organization. They connected with Global Youth Impact Nexus. I don't know like the
I
inside
see.
thing, but I
I
know they
see.
connected, and they decided to do this program. So like the Afghan organization was the one that contacted the girls and decided, okay, these are the girls that are going to be part of the program because of certain analysis, background analysis, or whatever that they did. And Global Youth Impact Nexus actually was the one that contacted the teachers. So I know some of the teachers because they were classmates in UPG Sustainability Program. I know some members of Hejimba because they were actually classmates. I don't know some of the teachers because just they where they are. But I think they will do it again. I don't know when or whatever. Just like I know it was 3 months. I know that we have this finishing. We finished that. We had like the graduation or something like that. That was like the impact that they had at that time. But I think it was actually a great impact in the sense of bringing girls these topics that they are interested in, like to avoid this ban that they have and say, okay, you want to make a difference, you want to learn about these topics, but you can't. So I can do in not just I, because it was like we were 10 different teachers. I think we were 10 because of the topics, but more or less we're 10 different teachers saying, okay, I know about climate change, I teach about that. I know about menstrual health, okay, I teach that. I know about circular economy, I know about literature, whatever. So these girls actually at the end of the program, they knew about all those topics. Yeah, probably they knew like a little bit about this, a little bit about that.
And they
But
can
that's
decide
actually,
what they
they
want to
have
do
tools.
from there, no?
Yeah, they have tools, and they also had that experience to say, okay, I have this 1 hour to do something that I know benefits me. Yeah, perhaps I have like a whole culture and things that are happening that affect me a lot, but I have this 1 hour to say, okay, I want to learn about whatever. We had also this freedom of talking on the classes because, being in a completely different country means, okay, I can talk about climate change in your country, but you have to tell me what's happening with climate change in your country.
So
Because
true.
I look in the news, there have been a flood, there have been many droughts, there have been landslide, whatever. Okay, that didn't happen to you. How did you feel? And then I got homework from some of the girls that decided to send it. One of the main things that appeared was, we need to end the war. Is that related to climate change? Yes or no? Kind of.
We could make the argument, no, that it's all related, but actually I just saw that the opium trade in Afghanistan is now being shut off. Or how do we say this intelligently? They are ending the opium trade, especially with the US, which I'm not really sure how exactly it ends up in the US, but there's lots of drug abuse of opioids there, and it could essentially kill a lot of people who are dependent on it, who won't be able to afford it. And it's just like the war and climate change and crops and everything is related in the end, and the geopolitical complexities of everything is in the end related. Now all of the systems end up meeting somehow. But I do actually want to go back just to end on your level, on your local level. What do you think maybe Buenos Aires or Argentina as a whole what is the biggest challenge that you guys are facing?
I think there are like a lot of different challenges, but I kind of focus on environment and climate. That is the things that I kind of learn and working on and so on. And probably one of the biggest threats in that way is climate change, but not also climate change as this problem and the impacts that they have, but also thinking about people that say, okay, this is not real, or this will continue happening, and not willing to make a difference. Because what I see in Youth is many people actually want to do something, but there are a lot of other people that because of social or economic issues and so on, they don't want to do something, or they feel that it's a duty for more developed countries, in which I agree at some point, because that's why differentiated responsibilities exist in the international agreements. So yes, there is a difference, but also we can't forget that things that are happening related to climate, like for example, some years ago we had this Paraná River. Paraná River is one of like the biggest rivers in Entre Rios and in different provinces that actually like come near to where I am, and it was completely dried. So not only you didn't have fish, but you also like could walk on the part where the river was, because there was not water, or just like a little piece of water.
Was it because of agriculture?
It
Because
was
of
because
irrigation?
of a draw in a general way. Uh, and that affected a lot. And it's okay, it's related to climate, but it's also related to international relationships, because if you don't have the water from Brazil, it doesn't like come to your river. So there were many things that were affecting. We also are having like, we're in winter now, but some days I'm like in t-shirt because it's just like a temperature is higher than it should be. So there's a lot of things that are actually happening, but I think awareness is still needed in many different levels. And I also think that we Argentinians are continuously in economic crisis. So I understand that sometimes the priorities are different, but we can't like say, okay, this is not important, because at some point, the things that are happening will affect our economic situation and make it worse. So it kind of trying to look for that balance, saying, okay, these environmental problems affect economy also. And if we can't do something about that, then will affect more, and you will need more money, and you will need to do, okay, what I'm doing with the people that are affected, because it's people, it's crops, it's animals, it's like a lot of things that are affected because of these environmental issues. We also have problems with the lithium in the north of our country, and the native communities, and how are we going to exploit it in a sustainable way, and how does it impact the communities that are there. So we have a lot of environmental issues all along the country, because we also have like a big country with many different biomes and conditions and societies and so on. So I don't think there are like a big solution that applies to everything, but just finding which is the problem in each area and which is the way to solve it with the people that are there, that actually know their community, the species, their nature, and so on.
So true. Getting the support of the people that are feeling the direct effects of the economic downturns or the economic surplus, because a lot of times those places have the resources and they're extracted and nobody who actually lives there gets any of the benefit. And I'm not really sure how y'all's government works, but
Yeah.
I imagine
It happens.
there's problems everywhere. No, and there are solutions as well. But knowing that there are people in the places where you're raising awareness and they want to be a part of the solutions, and yeah, they know the problems better than anybody. It's awesome that you can support that. Wow. So to wrap up, I didn't get this at the intro, so I want to ask, why is it that you started on this route? Like, what put your heart into environmentalism and then the science side of it and the outreach, the community outreach? Where did all of this start for Lucila?
That's actually a question that many people ask, and I don't feel like I have like a certain answer to that. But just like going backwards, like when I was a kid, I always enjoyed like natural sciences in school. I was like a favorite subject. So I kind of was related to that at some point. It was like, okay, what's your favorite subject? Natural. So I was like that kid. And then in high school, it turned out to biology and geography because like different subjects. Not as in primary school, like you have like social, natural, maths, and languages. Well, in secondary, you have like 15 different subjects. But it turned out related to that. And then when I did in the high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had like some friends that say, okay, I want to be a lawyer, I want to do whatever, I want to be a doctor. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what I want to do. It's not that I have always had this clarity, but then on trying to say, okay, what are the things that I like, what I would like to do, I started like doing some research and say, okay, what are the careers that are now and so on. And it started being like two different things. It was like, okay, or I study communication or I study environmental sciences. I got two interviews in the two universities because it was like two different universities with the different careers. And I had the two interviews. And then when I had the interview with this environmental management director, the director of the course at that time, I started talking to him, and he was really amazed at how involved I was and how interested and so on. And he started doing some questions, and he also asked me, okay, I don't know what was the topic, and he was like, okay, stand up and present about, I don't know, waste in your city or something like that. Yeah, I started talking and say, okay, maybe, yeah, that's what I love, but I just couldn't name it, you know. Then I say, okay, I thought of taking some gap months because I was like really exhausted, like finishing high school, doing the first certificate. I was like many things in my head, and I really didn't want to study. At that time, I was like, okay, I want to do something, but it also helps me to have some time. Finally, I didn't take those months off because the this guy convinced me and say, okay, you can perhaps start with less subjects and so on, but start now. But fast forward, I did my career in the 4 years that were programmed like the perfect, perfect timing. Then I also have some trouble in trying to get a job and so on. But the fact is that I knew that was my interest, and I kind of went with it and say, okay, I know I love that. I also started going to different events and courses and so on while I was in university. I didn't do much networking at that time because it was much about learning. But I had some friends that were like, okay, I'm going to event to network, and I'm going to event just to learn. And I actually learned to network when I was like a bit older. But the fact is that I knew that I was interested and I wanted to work on that. They also found that it was just not environment, but social environmental things. And then I say, okay, then it's sustainability, because if you don't have the economic pillar, then you can't do many things. So I started like turning to sustainability. I started doing trainings in sustainability. I started getting to talk with people working in sustainability. I started studying about climate. So it's just like still finding this path, but knowing that it's related to climate, to sustainability, to environment, and to making a difference in some way that I can. And it can be, okay, I'm teaching Afghan girls. It can be I'm doing a course. It can be I'm doing a talk promoting UPG. It can be I'm telling to my family that we have to separate the waste and do compost. Like there are many things that I can do. Okay, let's see what I can do. Do it even if it's small. Do something. And I actually find that I don't value that a lot, but I see in people that are like on the other side, they are like, okay, but it's amazing. You just didn't realize what you did, and I was like, no, well, I just did. For example, I just did a talk with Afghan girls, and then many weeks after, I was like, oh, yeah, but I did this talk to these girls that don't have access to education, and I got the replies, and I got... So you find out many things probably after you have done it, but you've done it because it was like what came to your heart, to say it in a way.
That is awesome. It's just what it's what found its way to you, and you make it look easy to be doing so much. You really do make it look like those little things add up, and they're really not little things. It's your time, it's your knowledge, the skills that you have obtained over these years of training and teaching. It's awesome what you do, and I'm really glad that you gave me your time, Lucila. Seriously, I'm probably going to have some questions to follow up with. Just, I mean, where you're going from here. I do want to stay in touch about the project that you're doing and the training, because as a teacher, I want to know what people's feedback is when we're trying to introduce education to different kinds of people. What do different kinds of people say about it? So yeah, I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. So thank you for inviting me and for listening to all the things, because when I like passionate and start talking a lot, and I know it sometimes overwhelms people, but thank
It
you for...
needs to be shared. That's why I'm doing this. It's not overwhelming. It needs to be shared. Seriously, it's awesome what you do. I'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.